Ireland look to bounce back against a very impressive Pumas side. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. Ireland v Argentina is actually looking like a pretty tasty game, given how the two teams went last week. Ireland pretty abject in defeat against New Zealand, not really firing at all. And, we know that Ireland are slow starters, but that doesn't mean that they're suddenly going to get better just because that's how things have been in the past. So, you wonder whether it's a dip in form for Ireland or whether it was just first test up, just not being on it the way that we've seen them in the past. But Argentina, absolutely brilliant against, a very strong Italy side. You look at that Italy team and there weren't too many players that, you would have said that Italy, were missing from that one. And, from Italy's point of view, a bit of a throwback to their performance in the, Rugby World Cup, where kind of capitulated in that pool, and didn't really do themselves justice. And kind of almost, not quite erasing the strides they made during the Six Nations, but still, it's a bit worrying for them. They picked such a strong team, expected it to be, a decently close game, and Argentina were just completely on it and completely, saw them off so easily as well. So, these two here, we're going to, first of all, go through the teams pretty quickly, and then we'll come back and talk about the, little bit more depth, but not as much as we did in the first round previews because, we've gone through a lot of players before. But we'll start with the Ireland team. So, fullback Hugo Keenan, right wing Mac Hansen, centres Gary Ringrose and Robbie Henshaw, left wing James Lowe, halfback Shaq Crowley and James Gibson Park. Front row then, Andrew Porter, Ronan Kelleher and Philly Beelum. Second row, Joe McCarthy and James Ryan. The back row then, Tyg Byrne, Josh van der Fleer and Caelan Doris. On the bench, we've got Rob Herring, Keane Healy, Thomas Clarkson, Ryan Baird, Peter O'Mahony, Craig Casey, Sam Prendergast and Jamie Osborne. Okay, so let's have a look then at the Argentina team. So the Pumas, we've got Juan Cruz Malia at fullback, Rodrigo Iskro on the right wing, centres Lucio Cinti and Matias Moroni. Left wing then is Batista Delgay. Halfbacks Thomas Albanos and Gonzalo Bertrano. Back row is Joaquin Oviedo. Juan Cruz, Martin Gonzalez. Pablo Martera there at 6. Then the second row is Pedro Rubiolo and Guido Petti. In the front row then we've got Joel Sclavi, Julian Montoya and Thomas Gallo. Okay, so on the bench we got Ignacio Ruiz, Ignacio Calles, Francisco Gomez Codella, Franco Molina, Santiago Grondona, Gonzalo Garcia, Santiago Carreras and Justo Picardo. Okay, so fairly strong bench from them as well. We know, like last week, Ireland's bench did not have the impact that you would have hoped that it had with the game kind of in the balance. Really, like Ireland went even further down. If anything, when the bench come on, and some of the bench come on and didn't quite stay on either. But let's have a closer look at the Ireland teams. There's only one change to the starting lineup for Ireland. A lot of people probably would have thought, there's going to be more changes after how poor they were against New Zealand. It makes sense, right? You've got that squad there, and it makes sense. Just even send a signal to some of the starting players that, listen, if you're not performing, if you're not up to it, we have these guys who can come in and they can do the job instead. So you've got to be on it. And that's kind of a worry for me, is that, we only made one change to our starting lineup after such a poor performance. There are arguments for it, and we'll come to that in a minute, but let's just think about one side of things first. So for me, there's no point in picking a squad, right, and then we don't actually, we don't decide to make use of it when it seems like it's the best chance to do it, right? Shake things up a little bit, bring in some of the players who've been in good form, who maybe, haven't been the guy in possession in the jersey, but give them a chance. And, if they don't perform, well, then the other guy comes back again, but then he's fired up anyway. So in terms of just the squad, getting everybody up and fired up for the rest of the games, I would have thought that we would have made a few more changes. Now, there are a lot of arguments for not making too many changes. The first of which is, that you can give the guys, the team that were so poor against New Zealand, a chance to kind of make amends, right? You're giving them that chance to go out there and show that it was just a one-off kind of, first game of the block kind of thing, and they just weren't up to it at that stage. Next, then, what you could think of is that, Argentina are a really good bloody team, and you can't be making too many changes, or you're going to suffer that first, defeat in Dublin to Argentina, and they don't really want that on them. So that's another thing to consider there. Then, another one to think about is we've got other games coming up, and maybe there are going to be changes made for those, and maybe there was kind of a plan of certain players are going to play in certain games, the other players are going to get, against maybe the likes of Fiji, going to get their chance there, and then, the guys who are playing against Argentina, not all, but a lot of them maybe will have that week off, and then they'll come back for the final test. And it could be that there's a certain set rotation to go for the players. I'm not sure that's the wisest thing to do. For me, I think you have to be more flexible in your selections and think, okay, if somebody's not performing, let's bring somebody else in. There's other things as well to consider as well. The fact that this is the last block of games for Farrell before he goes off to be the Lions coach. So he doesn't necessarily want to end up with 2 defeats in a row. So that again comes down to how good Argentina are, and not wanting to first of all disrespect them, but also take them lightly by switching in too many players and then ending up with a defeat, and then people saying, oh well, we lost because you made too many changes, or too many of the players hadn't played together in an Ireland shirt, or whatever it is, right? So I can see it from that point of view as well, right? That Farrell, I think he's, it's, for me, like, I used to love the Lions, and now, it's well, not now, like in the last couple of Lions tours, I've really, like, I haven't even watched the games, apart from the tests. And normally, like, I remember back in what it would have been 2005, right? The terrible tour under Woodward, right, where he brought, I don't know, about 1 million players over. But I remember getting up, early in the morning to watch those games and watch every single game. I used to watch my dad and my younger brother. I watched every single minute of every game in that tour. I'm actually, we had like Sky Sports to make sure that we didn't miss any of the games back when it was on there. I don't know where they're on now anymore, because I said I don't really watch Lions as much. Although maybe, when they go to Australia, I might pick my interest back up in it. But, what I was getting at is he's going off to be the Lions coach, and for me, I'm not. I see for him it's brilliant, right? But for Ireland, it's very disruptive, because he's here now thinking about trying to get, finish off with some wins before he goes off to the Lions, and not necessarily thinking about the development of the Ireland team over the next year. Not saying he's not, like, that he's just kind of abandoning his post or something and hasn't got that in his mind. I'm just saying that he can't be completely focused on like Ireland development when he's not going to be around. Sure, he's going to have inputs and stuff, in terms of Six Nations and the tour that'll happen next year where the Lions is on, etc. And a lot of, you would expect a lot of the Ireland team to probably be on his Lions tour as well. But there still has to be an effect there. I think the effect we're seeing is that, he's looking to finish off this block with Ireland on a bit of a high, rather than maybe looking to, who can I bring in now, give them some game time, and then see how they go in the Six Nations after that as well. So I think, in terms of the wider squad and team selections, maybe a bit more conservative. I know Andy has been very conservative, very loyal to players, but I think even more conservative now than probably we would have seen. But let's go down through the team. So got Hugo Keenan at fullback. I still don't think he's, at the level that he was before he went back to the sevens. And I think that's another thing. I think that was a mistake, certainly personally for him. Brilliant that he got to go to, an Olympics and stuff. But yeah, I feel like there's just something a little bit off in terms of, like, he's still a brilliant player, but is he now, like, can you still say, he's in with a shout to be the best fullback at test level in the world? I'm not sure, honestly. Unconvinced since he came back, honestly. Maybe going to take another few months for him to get back up to speed, and maybe, by the Six Nations he'd be back up at that level. But right now I don't think he is. Mac Hansen then came straight back into the team. Didn't do too badly against New Zealand, but nobody really covered themselves in glory in that game. He did have a couple of knock-ons of balls that you would have expected him to catch if he'd been at it a bit more. I know he was back for Connacht, but still a bit of a long layoff, and the fact that as well he just came straight in over the top of Nash back in. I'm not too sure on that, honestly, but he's there. We know once he's up to speed, we know he can give us. Then the centres, this is where the change is. Got Gary Ringrose and Robbie Henshaw replaces Bundy Aki. So Bundy Aki dropped for this one. Like, the best player that Ireland have had for the last 2 seasons is the only one who gets dropped after we lose to New Zealand. That I know he wasn't brilliant, but still. And again, like, it's Robbie Henshaw coming in instead of somebody like Jamie Osborne as well, which kind of, again, a bit more conservative than that. But it's still a really good centre pairing, Ringrose and Henshaw. So can't complain about the quality of it. It's just a case of, what are we trying to do? It looks like they're trying to win the game, right? But very little else. Then James Lowe there on left wing. He was so fired up when he kicked that brilliant 50-22. And, I think, who was talking about it? One of the ex-Leinster players. I can't remember his name. He used to play 10. Madigan, right? Madigan was talking about that seeing something like that would have G'd up the rest of the players, but obviously not enough. Then Jack Crowley had a poor game against New Zealand, but kind of saved by the fact that, off the bench, Kieran Frawley had an even worse cameo in that one as well. So no real threat to him starting, at least in this one. Then James Gibson Park, probably one of the few players to come out, with some positives from the game. Played pretty well compared to the rest of the team, I think. Then the front row, Andrew Porter. He's going to be on for most of the game, you would expect. Cian Healy will get on at some stage, and he will equal, I think, Brian O'Driscoll's appearance record for Ireland at that stage. And he's obviously going to break at some stage over these tests, unless he picks up an injury in this one. Then Ronan Kelleher, got to be better. I think himself and Porter got to be better. It wasn't good enough against New Zealand, so expecting better from them. Finlay Bealham ended up having to pretty much play the entire game. You know, he'd come off, we thought he was done. O'Toole come on for him, and then, you know, 2 minutes later, Bealham was back on because O'Toole, you know, got a head knock, and he's out this week because of that head knock as well. Joe McCarthy and James Ryan, you know, McCarthy not as physical as we would have expected. And then James Ryan, you know, the line out is his bread and butter, and didn't go all that well, honestly, for him. So I think those two lucky to be still starting, you know, compared to last week. Then Ty Byrne continues at 6. You know, he might have switched into maybe, you know, the second row there, and, you know, we could have seen somebody else maybe come in at 6, given how poor our second row were last week. But you know, that change didn't happen either. Then in the back row as well, you got Josh van der Fleer, then Caelan Doris, not as good carrying as, you know, we've seen him before as well. So, you know, that certain team really does have to, everyone has to, you know, go up a couple of levels, I think, in this game. On the bench then you got Rob Herring, you know, kind of just Mr. Steady, Mr. Reliable, really, you know, throw his darts well, probably a better scrummager than Kelleher, and, you know, overall, you know, nothing spectacular, but still a decent option off the bench. Cian Healy then, you know, it's brilliant that the guy is going to equal that caps record, but again, I keep saying it speaks to kind of the dearth of talent that Ireland have available at loosehead. That, you know, you got Andrew Porter that we know has, you know, issues in terms of driving across the scrum and getting pinged for it, you know, all the time. And then Cian Healy, you know, and there are two options there, and we don't have anyone he can dislodge either of them. That kind of tells you, you know, we're in a bit of trouble in that area in terms of, you know, pretty much having no depth at all. Then we got young Thomas Clarkson, you know, who's gone decently when I've seen him, but, you know, he's got to you got to be careful, obviously, with young tight heads, you know, but at least Bealham should get a bit of a rest in this when he comes on. Then Ryan Baird is on there. You know, instead of Ian Henderson, I thought Henderson, you know, was pretty poor when he come on, but again, there wasn't anybody who had really positive impact from the bench last week. But Baird, you know, very different player, certainly more dynamic coming into that second row. Then you got Peter O'Mahony there. You know, didn't have the impact you would expect Peter O'Mahony to have off the bench, and you wonder whether like this is going to be kind of his last involvement with an Ireland squad. You know, whether we're going to see him in the Six Nations or not. But again, he's coming back from injury, so, you know, when he gets back fit, and if he has a brilliant game this time, suddenly you could absolutely see him doing another Six Nations campaign if he does hit the heights here. Then Craig Casey has come on instead of Murray at 9 as well. So I think that's decent, because again, I think, you know, we need to have some changes in the squad. You know, some players hungry, coming in, looking to keep their spot or even to move up the pecking order. Then talking about somebody who wants to move up the pecking order, Sam Prendergast, young, really good talent, and somebody who I think, you know, we saw Frawley last week. The occasion got to him, I think, with so many errors. Although, like, in fairness to Frawley, he handled the pressure pretty well then in South Africa, but whatever it was in that one, it just didn't go for him. But I think Prendergast should be able to handle it when he comes on. We'll have to see how long he gets. Is it going to be like a 5-minute cameo at the end, or will he get, like, you know, closer to 20 minutes? We'll have to see. Then Jamie Osborne, you know, over the last season, in terms of new players coming through, certainly one of the brighter prospects that we have, and, you know, would have liked to see him starting at 12. You know, but I think the reason that they've done it is I think they wanted to bring himself and Henshaw in, and it makes sense to have Osborne on the bench simply because he can cover, comfortably, I think, cover more positions than Henshaw can off the bench. So it makes sense if you want both of them in your 23, the Henshaw starts and Osborne comes from the bench. So, it's a decent Ireland team. Again, you got to look at what you really want out of it. Ireland are obviously trying to go for the win here and not looking that much towards development. There are some young players in there, but certainly not as many as a lot of Irish fans would like to see in terms of just kind of looking to the future. But I think if they can get a win, and the win's not guaranteed just because they picked this team, like we got to be clear about that as well. But if they can get a win, then that lifts everything, and then you go into the Fiji game and maybe you can make some more changes for Fiji, and then you're putting in maybe some of those younger players like Prendergast is getting his debut, but we've got potentially another debut to come because there was only 2 uncapped players in the whole squad pick for these tests, but another potential there as well in that one, and hopefully some of the wider squad will get some game time. But that's our Ireland team. Then let's have a look at the Argentina team. So it'll help if I went the right way. So fullback, Juan Cruz Malia, like the guy, brilliant player there at fullback, and he's someone that is very dangerous, and if Ireland kick as poorly as they did against New Zealand, it's gonna be a lot of problems with that. So a lot of kind of on the likes of Crowley, Lowe, and then Hansen, to kick properly, and then Keenan as well, just to make sure that the likes of him, don't get to run the ball back and slice through our team and create a try. Then, the wingers Isgro and Delgay, looking decent out there as well. Both good finishers, and both combining well in the wide channels as well. And we know Ireland get caught out in the wide channels a lot. So if Argentina can get to the width, that they can definitely get some reward as well with those guys down the wings. Centre pairing then, Cinti and Moroni has come into the team for this one, and he looked decent when he came off the bench as well against Italy. So I don't think the centre pairing has got any worse by him coming into the starting team, and looking at last week, probably gotten a bit better with him coming in. So those two, against Henshaw and Ringrose, Ringrose not up to the level that he was before. Henshaw, he's not that long back, into the Leinster team, and then coming back into Ireland as well. So, he's going to have to get up to speed very quickly against these two. Then Albanos, thought he had a fantastic game. What was it, 20 points against Italy? The guy, he's got the running game, he's got the passing game, he's got the kicking game as well. So Crowley can't be as poor as he was against New Zealand, against this guy, because he'll just eat him up. Then you got Bertrand, very lively at 9, and one of these 9s that has that innate ability to run support lines as well, and get on the end of things too. So got to watch out for him. If Argentina do manage to get him behind, the scramble is going to be very important to keep the likes of him quiet. Then the back row, so we've got Matera there returning at 6. I think he was suspended, right? And then we got Juan Martin Gonzalez and Oviedo as well there. So, pretty decent back row there. And, going up against an Irish back row that really didn't perform last time out as well. So these guys, will want to try and impose themselves on them. And, Ireland know they're going to have to be physical. They're going to have to, kind of win the right to to compete with these guys and to get to go forward and at the breakdown as well. I think the breakdown is going to be very competitive. Ireland have this thing where, start of the game, if teams attack them at the breakdown, they can get a lot of joy because Ireland start out by trying to put the minimum amount of players into rucks as they can, and so Argentina, if they're smart, they're going to attack the breakdown early on and kind of disrupt Ireland's rhythm and maybe get a few turnovers and get a bit more ball and a bit more territory for themselves by doing that. Then the second row, you got Rubiolo and Petty. Petty's the third change coming into the team as well. It was Alemano, I think, right, that drops out for that. I think he played last week, right? So yeah, looking at how poor the two Irish second rows were last week, like these two guys again, we'll be looking at looking to impose themselves, both in the line-out, attacking line-outs and defensive line-outs as well, and then around the park too. Then front row, you got Sclavi, Montoya, and Gallo. Again, the thing with Ireland is if Porter isn't scrummaging straight, and we got no Furlong, and Kelleher isn't the best scrummager in the world, and the referee picks up the fact that Porter isn't scrummaging straight, then these guys, people used to talk about Argentina only having a big scrum and that being the thing. Like the scrum, compared to the heyday, is nowhere near as good. So they're not like, it's the old kind of trope for them. It was, they have a brilliant scrum and not much else. But now they've got almost everything else, and the scrum isn't great. But against this Ireland scrum, the way they're going at the minute, they might fancy themselves as well. For me, I think people say Ireland's scrum is pretty good, or is decent. For me, I think it's actually pretty poor, honestly. When you look at the amount of penalties they give away and how few penalties actually win at scrum time, it's not brilliant, and it feels like it gets fixed and then it's broken and then it gets fixed and it's broken. It's never been a consistently decent scrum for me. So an area definitely for them to attack, set piece, line out, the line out scrums, mauls, Ireland's maul defence, especially when you think that you've got Byrne there, but now you don't have a Henderson as well to kind of add to that too. And then like Ireland's attacking maul isn't brilliant either. I don't know what it is with body positions and stuff like that, but they never seem to get too much go forward with the maul. And it's one of those ones where they seem to be able to fix it for a game and then they'll go again for another game. So it's obviously, I'm going to say obviously, but it feels like it's not something that the players are that enthused about in terms of getting it absolutely spot on right. I'm sure they do. Whatever details, everyone's across their details, but it's when you go out there and perform, it's just not coming off that way. Then the replacement front row for both teams is going to be very important. So Ruiz, Calles, and Gomez Codea. Again, looking at the Irish replacements, you got Herring there again, who's decent in set piece, but you got first of all, Church, who he's gonna equal those cap record, but Ireland seem to be afraid to put him on. They seem to be afraid to take Porter off, and that's really not a place you want to be in. And then you got Clarkson as well there, so you're wondering, when Ireland will actually go to their bench. Will it be 20 minutes to go, or are they going to try and keep the front, the starting front row, apart from Herring maybe, or bringing Herring on, sorry, for Kelleher, keep the props on maybe for as long as they can. We'll have to see how it goes with that. Then we've got Molina, and Grondona started last week, right, against Italy. Thought he went well, but with Matera coming back in, like he drops down to the bench, but still a decent player to come off. Then you got Garcia, Carreras, who's I think is a fantastic player, and then Picardo there as well. So looking at the benches, I'm looking at through the lens of how much impact Ireland had last week from the bench. You would probably edge it to Argentina from the bench. It really depends on the new guys that have come onto the bench, for Ireland, whether they can kind of make up for the impact that was kind of lacking last week. So you're looking at the likes of Ryan Baird, Casey, Prendergast, and then Osborne as well. I think when he gets on, the rest then, Herring, Healy and Amani, didn't cover themselves in glory last week. So they're going to have to step things up, to actually have the impact. But how do I think the game is going to go? So I'm going to go by the rule of thumb. And the rule of thumb for me is if a game is in a Rugby World Cup, Argentina are the favourites. They've beaten Ireland 3 out of 4 times that they played in the Rugby World Cup, including, like, I was there in 2007. Actually, this jersey here that's how old it is. It's from 2007. It's a training jersey for that World Cup. But I was there in the stadium when we just got taken apart by them. And I remember as well going into that World Cup where it was, we were told, oh, this is a properly professional Ireland team. They're the best preferred team. They've got the most depth we've ever had. And, getting excited about, we might actually make it to a semi-final. Didn't even get out of the pool. We got beaten by Argentina. We got beaten by France in the pool. It was Georgia, right? Yeah, Georgia game was a hell of a game as well in there too. So it was a tough World Cup to go to. And then, on top of that, then the public transport after the games, non-existent. Had to sleep in train stations and stuff and go home, to where we were staying in the morning because no trains were running, once the game was over and stuff like that. But it was World Cups. You kind of give Argentina the edge. Outside World Cups, generally Ireland have the edge on that. And the fact that it's in Dublin as well, is another little bit to Ireland too. So, you would say, that Ireland should be the favourites for it. Now, having said that, given how poor Ireland were last week and given how good Argentina have been this week, I think this is the best chance that Argentina have had to get that first win in Dublin. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but I'm going to go for an Ireland victory. And, the thing is, though, if Ireland don't win and you look at that team and you know that, Andy Farrell has picked that team to win the game. It's not about development, for the most part, at least. This is a team to get a win. And if they don't get the win, then, suddenly you're thinking about, okay, well, how are things going to be? He's going to be gone for the Six Nations. He's going to come back after the Lions. And then we're halfway through the cycle until the next Rugby World Cup. And then you wonder how much progress you've actually made in, at that stage in the 2 years since the last Rugby World Cup. And you kind of start getting a little bit nervous because it's never worked out too well for, any of the teams that have had coaches go off to the Lions and then come back. I'm not a fan of it. And, it almost feels like then that we're basically saying that this next World Cup is going to be Andy Farrell's swan song with Ireland. We're not going to see him beyond that, no matter what happens in that World Cup. Is that it feels like it's a winding down of the Andy Farrell era. have the Lions, whatever happens there, and then come back to Ireland and then have like a 2-year burst until that World Cup. But yeah, so my prediction for the game, I do think Ireland are going to win. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be closer than certainly a lot of Ireland fans want, and the Ireland coaches and players as well, because this is a really good Argentina team. Ireland are going to have to go up, like, sometimes you talk going up 1 or 2 levels. I think Ireland have got to go up 3 or 4 levels compared to the way where they were, against New Zealand. Worst Ireland performance I've seen in a long time, especially from this group. I've seen a lot of poor Ireland performances back in the day, but these guys you expect better from. I think they set the bar a lot higher than what they produced last week, and but they can't even be reaching that, just reaching that bar and producing kind of the normal performances where they've got to go up, because this is an Argentina team that if they get the tails up against us, they can score points very quickly, and then it's going to be a big struggle to come back. And this is an Ireland team, historically we've seen under Andy Farrell, the way they work is they take control at the start to try and get their early scores. If they fall behind in the first half, it's okay, because they have the ability to come back by half time and kind of get on parity, get themselves maybe a little bit ahead. And then after between kind of the start of the second half and about 60 minutes is generally where this Ireland team will win games. Is pulling away then. They're not a team that finishes strongly in the last 20 minutes. And a lot of that, part of that is impact from the bench, but also I think I don't know whether it's a mental thing or whatever it is, but Ireland don't score, too many points in the last 20 minutes, so that's where, Ireland got to try and win it. Is they've got to get a good start, get a lead, and then in the second half, then start the second half, build on it, and then if they can do that, then they can manage the game. But this is not an Ireland team that is going to fall maybe, let's say, 15 or 20 points behind and come steaming back over the top of a team. They're just not built that way, if you like. But they are a team who could go the opposite way and build up a 15, 20 point lead and just hold the opposition at arm's length for the rest of the game. But I'm going to go for an Ireland win. I'm an Ireland fan. But in terms of, I'd say in terms of Ireland versus Argentina in Dublin, it's the least confident I've been in predicting an Ireland win in that fixture, in Dublin. So, still nervous about it. And it's almost like fingers crossed really for a win, which is kind of, again, back to the bad old days with Ireland. But that's my prediction. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, especially, if you're an Argentina fan or Ireland fan, are you happy with the team that has been selected? What changes would you have made if you're not happy, etc.? And in terms of these games as well, do you think it's better to go for the win or to go for the development or somewhere in between? Just let me know, post your comments.